Hello, welcome to WD18, the Watford fan channel. Welcome to another live show. Myself, Jacob Culshaw, Sam Ucko, Charlie Zazzera. We're here to be talking all things Watford. And after a Watford win, which I tell you what, after our last stream, we were a bit down in the dumps. We were thinking about that performance against Millwall. And then obviously we had the Swansea game, which we didn't do a video afterwards, which is probably a good thing. It's not just because we've won, we've come back online, but we thought we'd get into the Norwich win, the Swansea performance as well, and then talk about some transfer news and then a new segment coming on the live shows here on WD18. So to kick it off, Sam, I'll throw it over to you first, mate. How are you getting on? How are you feeling? Missed away day this season. I mean, your commitment has been unbelievable.
Oh, thank you, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah, the only one I've missed now is Cardiff away, which ironically I got halfway to the game. We got stuck in traffic in sort of the Bristol area, and it was absolutely chucking it down that night. So we didn't make the game that day, which was annoying because we actually went on to win it. And fun fact, that Cardiff game was the last Watford player to score who wasn't João Pedro until Bayo's goal against Norwich. So that's how long it's been. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, the last 3 or 4 days, I think if supporting Watford in a nutshell could be summed up like that, going from losing 4-0 away at Swansea, the worst performance ever, to a brilliant performance away at Norwich and winning 1-0, I think that sums it up perfectly.
Do you know what? Perfect. And it's perfect start to the year. And I haven't wished you guys a Happy New Year. Happy New Year, Sam. Happy New Year, Charlie.
Happy New Year.
Charlie, what a start to the year. How are you getting on, buddy? It's great to have you back on. And I'm love this new segment that's coming up. I don't know if you want to do a bit of a teaser, but I think people are going to be excited for this one.
Yeah, no, thanks for having me on. Happy New Year to you guys. Watford 100% unbeaten record in 2023. It's all going off, and
manga effect.
But yeah, no, glad to be back on. We've just thrown a few ideas around. We discussed a kind of new feature called Agree to Disagree, where we're looking for all the viewers to comment with a statement, whether that would be something like, is Ismaila Sarr going to stay, or will Watford get promoted? And then between the three of us, we'll see if we agree to disagree. Should cause some fun debate. So yeah, any statements that you guys want answers to, put it in the comments, and hopefully we will answer them.
Love that. We'll get on to that later on in the show. But before we do that, we're going to cross over to the Norwich game. It finished, obviously, Watford won, Norwich 0. Watford have won their last 4 trips to Carrow Road, which is really interesting because I thought like it there on Monday that was going to be the end of it. But at the time, Sam did a live reaction outside of Carrow Road, and this was his thoughts and how I guess we were all feeling after that great Watford win.
It has finished Norwich City 1, Watford 0. Absolutely huge win for Watford today. Really, really, really good performance. We asked for heart, we asked for desire, we asked for determination. We got all of that today. The starting 11 was, as we expected, it was sort of square pegs in round holes. That sort of thing. We had Mario Gaspar and Bacuna in central midfield again, which, you know, a lot of people weren't too confident, including myself, going into the game, seeing that. James Morris was given a start today as well, while Samuel Kalu also started the game, which, you know, was short-lived for Kalu, who came off injured, along with Cabaselli and Keenan Davis, who, you know, I thought all three of them, when they were on the pitch, I thought they were all really good. So best wishes to them in their recoveries. But I thought we probably had just about the better of it in the first half. Norwich, I think it was Hanley, had a goal disallowed. I think it was offside, or someone was standing offside, so arguably got a bit lucky with that. But Sarr had a good chance for the first half, and Keenan Davis, as I said, he was excellent. He was holding the ball up, he was bringing the ball forward, and really, really good showing from him all round today. In the second half, though, you know, at points it was sort of backed against the walls. It looked like it was heading for 0-0 draw because Norwich didn't really have that cutting edge. But after sort of defending the corner and a miss hit by the Norwich player just in front of the halfway line, Spria with a beautiful touch, he was able to lay it off to Sarr, who opened up his body, got round a couple of Norwich defenders, and squared it for Vacu Bayo, who came on. And admittedly, I didn't think Bayo had a good game today, to be honest with you. I thought, you know, his touch was poor, I thought his finishing was poor, but when we needed him most, he was able to tap it in at the far post, and it was absolute carnage when that goal went in as well. Absolute scenes. You know, I'm just so happy for the team because, you know, they've had to put up with, you know, I know Swansea was really, really poor and it wasn't acceptable at all, but in terms of the, you know, injuries going on and suspension to Hassan Kamara as well, you know, I think we deserve to win today, particularly with sort of the square pegs and round hole situation that I mentioned. Good opportunity now for the players to have a bit of a rest. FA Cup coming up. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, if we can rest our team because we don't have many available. But before we have Blackpool and Rotherham at home, so we've got a really good opportunity now to pick up some form and hopefully climb our way up the Championship table. We're up to 4th now. In terms of who I thought stood out for Watford today, I thought James Morris was brilliant. I thought he had a really good game. It was a shaky start for him. He got beaten to the ball a couple of times with some really poor crosses, but on the whole, for his first start at this level, I think it's his first start, he really held his own and never stopped running throughout the whole game. Francisco Ciaralta was absolutely brilliant as well. Really, really happy with him. His first start in a while as well. He went everything in the air. Marshalled that backline excellently as well. So delighted with his performance. I thought Gaspar and Bacuna really held their own in central midfield as well. So, certainly, well, I don't think we want to see that midfield two again. I thought they did really well. And as I said, Davis Boy got injured. I thought, he looked really strong today. And let's hope his injury isn't for too long. But yeah, still in Norwich now, heading back to Watford later on after we've had some food, but delighted with that. We go into Reading with Reading in the Cup with confidence, and we have to follow this up now against Blackpool. We've got a Watford fan here. Do you want to come in the video, mate?
Go you on it!
Love that. Happy with today, mate?
Oh mate, I'll be happy if we didn't keep losing players to injuries.
No, that's true. In terms of the win?
Mate, I'm always happy with a win.
Good stuff.
It could have been 1-0 to either side.
Good stuff, yeah.
And coming to that, thinking that, but ecstatic for a win. Get us back in the playoffs. Stop us going downwards.
Brilliant. And are you confident going into Reading in the Cup next week?
No, we need to get out of the Cup. We ain't got enough players to have a Cup run, son.
Oh, no, good stuff.
All good.
All good. But,
despite the half team, we're getting there.
Yeah, we'll get there. You Orns, a massive win today. Thank you everyone for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to WD18, and we'll be back for Reading away next week. Come on, you Orns.
Love that. Well, you know what, Sam? I hadn't actually watched that video, so I had a big smile on my face when the Watford fan came in.
It was really weird. We were just sort of standing outside TGI Fridays where we ate our dinner, and just this Watford fan sort of recognised me from the channel and just came over straight away. So I was like, "Oh, do you want to be in the video?" But obviously, it's so much easier recording it after we've won a game as well.
Mate, 100%. Do you know what, Charlie? We got Sam's thoughts there, just his initial reaction. But after the game and after the win against Norwich, was it relief? Was it, I don't know, was it joy? What was the sort of emotions that were coming over you? Because for me, in the ground, it was like, thank God that's over.
I think it was shock, was the overarching. I think going into the game, I think in the morning I listened to From the Rookery and hearing the guys kind of upset, down about it. We were all chatting on WhatsApp, and it felt like we were like going into a game against Manchester City. Obviously, just because of the mad injury list that we've had, and we just thought Norwich City, they've got rid of Dean Smith, so are they going to have a potential bounce? I know they only drew to Reading before that, and I just thought the players we had available, there is no chance that we are going to get a result away to Norwich. We spoke about kind of Gaspar and Bacuna centre midfield, aka Xavi and Iniesta. When the game started, I think you immediately found out that the players were up for it, responded from Swansea, and we're going to show the bare minimum, which is fight, desire. And as the game went on, I think confidence grew. They knew that we were in a game. They knew we were competitive. And the way the game went, it was like, is it going to happen? Then the injuries started piling up again. And then just at the end, that bit of quality, I know you tweeted about it, but Yasser Spears' weighted pass was perfect. Sarr doing the business, beating his man, putting in an inch perfect cross, and Vacuum Bio just about finding that corner to send the away fans mental. So I'm chuffed for you guys who went there and everyone who went there, because it's been tough, but that's what away fans deserve, those sort of victories. And it's for you guys. So well done for everyone who travelled.
Oh, it's top stuff. Yeah, do you know what, Sam? I have to say, when I got to the ground, I didn't think it was going to be a sellout, but actually there was a picture. I think Andrew French took a picture of the away end, and it was totally sold out. And I think that kind of epitomised the spirit, not only of the fans, Sam, but actually the players as well. Because you can talk about the tactical element of it, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a moment. But actually, just as Charlie mentioned there, the sort of grit, the determination, but actually just the spirit of the team, which, you know, has been questioned a lot of times over recent years, and particularly this season as well, right? So, what was that the most pleasing aspect for you when you actually, you know, you take a step back from the win?
Yeah, definitely. I think, I mean, admittedly, I was one of those sort of, as soon as, you know, got into the ground, I was just thinking, oh, let's just get this over with now. And I don't think, you know, I do try and remain as optimistic as possible, but particularly after those last few results and after going all the way to Swansea for that on Friday night, I don't think anyone could really blame me. And I think a lot of people were feeling the same way. But I think it got to 5-10 minutes in and I thought, do you know what? The players, you know, they're actually putting in 100% today. They're actually trying, they're showing heart. And you know, from an early stage, it looked like we were in a game. Keenan Davis was absolutely incredible in that first half. And I'd say probably the only negative, you know, coming out of that first half was that we weren't winning the game. And I think the fans recognised that. And particularly in the second half, you know, we were really getting behind the team, particularly at points where, you know, players were starting to cramp up and really, you know, play through that pain barrier, because we know what's going on with that, with the injury problems as well at the moment. And I remember particularly before the goal, I remember seeing James Morris limping and the ball was then coming down his side and all of a sudden he just sprints towards the ball and won it back. And I think that really epitomised everything. And the fans fed off that as well. There's a lot of talk about whether, you know, the crowd, for example, at Vicarage Road should be sort of leading the players, whether it should be the players who get the fans up for it. But I think certainly the other day, both fed off each other, and the carnage when that goal went in. We haven't seen scenes like that in a while, have we?
You know, honestly, I've never seen my dad look at me like that, and I've never kissed his head. But honestly, he dipped towards me, and I was just like, "Come here!" Just gave it a massive kiss. Charlie, when you think about, as Sam said, that, you know, the fans deserve it, but actually looking at some of the players that did play against Norwich, who particularly stood out for you? You know, there's been a lot of criticism, particularly of going forward, but then defensively as well. But it felt like everyone stepped up against Norwich. So who was particularly your standout players?
Yeah, just before I get to the players, there's one thing that I wanted to mention. And I watched back our video last week, and understandably Sam was upset with the players and sort of reference to them not caring. And I watched back and I was a bit frustrated with myself because I thought I wanted to kind of stick up for the players, because I've been in the lucky enough position to speak to a few of them this season with Watford FC Spaces, and I have to admit, every single one of them have spoke to me on the phone before. They seem energetic. They're doing it out of their own time. They haven't been dicks, basically. I think, don't get me wrong, I think you can't say maybe for every single player, but I think sometimes footballers might just get a bit of stick when it's not going their way. It might act like they don't care, but I think some of them do care. And I think Andrew French mentioned it as well. Obviously, he gets access to the players. So I think sometimes when those terrible performances come up, yes, we know we can do better. Yes, the determination to fight isn't there. But I think the environment is more at fault maybe than the actual individuals not caring. So I just wanted to raise that. In terms of performances, James Morris, who a lot of people have talked about, first league start for the club. Like Sam said in his previous video, he maybe a bit slow to start off, a bit shaky, maybe unsure with his decision-making. I thought he just grew into the game. He showed real fight, belief, energy. I think we should have scored. Bayer should have scored when he put that lovely cross to the back stick. Gaspar nodded it back. So I think James Morris was kind of someone who I wanted to shout out mainly. And all fingers crossed, bit of an exclusive. Hopefully, I'll be speaking to him on Watford FC Spaces on Friday evening. So if anyone's about that interested, hopefully you can interact with him. Make sure you're about for that.
Love that. Absolutely love that. Do you know what? There's a few players to get into, Sam, but for me, one player that actually stood out just from watching it, I haven't actually watched the whole game back, but obviously at the time, I thought Christian Kabasele had a fantastic game. And I know he comes under quite a lot of stick, Kaba, but you've got to then call it out when he plays well. And I thought actually I think Kaba's is best when, I don't know, maybe he's a little bit against the odds. I feel like he turns up, doesn't he? When he's maybe a little bit relaxed, I don't know what it is, but when he's got something to prove and he's got to show people that I've got to step up as a leader, I feel like you get the best out of Kabasele. Him and Cathcart, I thought, did really well at the back, Sam. I don't know whether you saw it the same, particularly defensively. Obviously, potentially that might be to do with playing three at the back. It does feel like those centre-backs do suit that formation.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I thought Christian Cavaselli was exceptional, and I do see your point in terms of when the odds are against him, he does seem to perform a lot better. Particularly this season, I think we've seen him perform better when people are going, "Oh, he shouldn't be starting," that sort of thing. I think a lot of that is sort of down to a game where he's gonna. There are games where he perhaps doesn't have to concentrate for all 90 minutes, and that's where we see the mistakes, I think. But against Norwich, I think he knew he had to be on his toes for the entire game. I think that certainly helped him with his performance, because I think the concentration problems with him are where a lot of his problems lie. But I do, I certainly agree with you, at least at the moment, that 5 at the back is the way forward for this team. I just think they all need that bit of protection. I thought Cathcart was brilliant. Obviously, Cabaselli, as we said, was brilliant. But I mean, my man of the match was Francisco Sierralta as well, and I think he massively helped out with the other two as well. And I think the question that has to be asked is, why hasn't he been playing more this season when he's?
Well, I was going to throw that over, Sam, because why is that? I mean, for me, I guess he's probably our best defender, right? If you look at the attributes of all the defenders, I would probably put Sierralta as one of the first names in the team sheet. So what's going on there? I mean, we don't know, but it just doesn't really add up, does it?
Yeah, there has been some fitness problems, I think, at points this season. But it's interesting because I don't think any manager, when they first come in, has really fancied Sierralta, which is a bit weird, suggesting that, not talking conclusively, but perhaps there's something underlying there, perhaps that he sort of has to, managers have to buy into Sierralta a bit more. But, he was brilliant. And I think, part of the reason why the defence was so good the other day was because, he was at his best.
Sam mentioned, Charlie, about the injury crisis. And a very simple question. I'll throw it over to you because I know you know so much about both managers. Do you think we win that game under Rob Edwards?
I can't say anything bad against Rob. No. That was my standout takeaway from the game, was how brilliant Bilic did with that team, mentality-wise, shape, getting them up for it, and that's all down to the manager. If I'm honest, I don't think Rob would have got that result. I think it took a lot of experience. And you could see through the game he was coaching players. He talked to James Morris. It was a Slaven Bilic masterclass, and I just think getting the right shape, getting those 3 defenders in, Sierralta in the middle, winning everything in the air. Unfortunately, putting Gaspar centre midfield, bit of a master stroke in the end. He was brilliant, one man of the match. And then Sarr and Davies up top. Like we said, Davies was unbelievable. So to change that shape to 3-4-3, and then to have the injuries to contend with throughout the game, especially Keenan Davis, it was a Bilic masterclass, and I thought, we've got a proper coach here. So 100%. Hopefully we can stick with him, we can back him, and we can have a good second half of the season.
For sure. I saw a great tweet where someone said Watford's recruitment is going to change to buying players from one position, then play them in another. Dan Gosling centre mid, playing him a right back, and then Gaspar right back and centre mid. Sam, when you look at Bilic and after you've been at the games and the tricky run and the atmosphere, it does feel like we've got a proper manager here. And a manager, actually, when you look at where Watford are as a club at the moment, someone who could manage maybe at high levels, maybe a bit over the top, but certainly the pedigree he has is something that we haven't seen at Watford for a long time. And also the players know that they're working under a proper coach. How impressed have you been with Slav? Especially when, it sounds weird, but when we did lose to Swansea that heavily and he does those interviews where he speaks openly and honestly, you feel like, I personally feel that you can buy into that as a supporter. Where you're like, at least he is actually seeing it the way we're seeing it, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think that honesty post Swansea was so refreshing. And Jacob, I know you've brought up this video a few times. Which game was it after where he brought up sort of his tactical Norwich at home? Yeah, exactly. So I think his interviews are really refreshing compared to any other manager that we've seen at Watford. To be honest with you, I mean, he's been there, done that, knows how the media works, knows when to dig out his players, and knows when to back them as well. You could see he was absolutely gutted after the Swansea game. He was picking his words carefully as well. There were a lot of breaks in between his words, and I don't think he wanted to go too over the top, but he also wanted to show the fans that he cared. But what I'm so impressed with was obviously the confidence would have been absolutely rock bottom after that Swansea game, particularly with the injury crisis. Your next game is going to Norwich, which we didn't really know what we'd get, to be honest with you, because would it be sort of this interim manager bounce that they could perhaps get, or would it be sort of the same old Norwich? And I think the players, perhaps the confidence would have been low in there. But Bilic, I don't think a lot of the game in the build-up would have been perhaps tactical focus. I just think it would have been about lifting the players, getting them ready for this game, getting them confident again, getting them up for it to show passion and fight for all the away supporters in the corner of the ground. And I think he did that superbly. And I think it's testament to, not necessarily his tactical management, but his man management as well, because it's no easy thing to lift up this Watford team after a 4-0 loss against Swansea.
Yeah, I guess lifting us up as well, Charlie, and also the fact that you look at, it's the elephant in the room. The injury list at the moment is nothing that I've ever seen before as a Watford fan. I know my dad hasn't seen that as a Watford fan, and generations have very rarely seen that as a Watford fan. You speak to coaches a lot, obviously through your job and stuff. Have they ever talked about how they've dealt with the absentees and the injuries and the way they set up tactically and how they try to adapt to the situation? Have they ever gone into that when you've spoken to managers?
I think the one thing I'd say is kind of having the squad,
right?
Having a squad of players. And for example, I've heard some coaches who are a bit like, this is the 11. As a former Watford coach, who I'll let, if anyone can guess who I'm talking about, but might just prioritise the 11 and then just don't care about the other players. And it just shows the importance of having the squad, getting everyone believing in the right values, getting everyone ready to, when they come in, get ready to go. So I think that's the thing that's important. And there would have been plenty of players who would have been coming in, whether it's Gaspar, James Morris could have been pretty frightened. Do you know what I mean? Sierralta's been in and out of the team. Troost, Cabaselli. No one's kind of stuck with it. Yasser Spreer's, 18? So, yeah, I think for a coach's perspective, it's building that synergy, building that togetherness, which I think togetherness is a brilliant word to describe Norwich, because Sky picked up the injury crisis. They had the up-to-date graphic. It's unprecedented, like we've seen. So we've been moaning back in maybe August, saying our squad's not strong enough. So minus 15 players is huge. So like I said, to get a response about that, I think that's going to make the players now go, this Bilic knows what he's doing. Let's pull our socks up and we can make a real fist of things.
Exactly. I guess that is the buy-in he's going to get. Just to read through to anyone, if you didn't know, then you're probably not a Watford fan, but these are the Watford absentees at the moment. So we've got João Pedro out with an ankle injury, Hamza Chowdhury knee, Hassan Kamara suspended, Edu Kembe calf, Dan Gosling Achilles, Imran Louza broken leg, Raymond I hamstring, Courtney Hawes knee, Tom Cleverley Achilles, Tom Deli Bashiru ankle, and then 4 hamstring injuries in Ken Sema, Samuel Kalu, Keenan Davis, and Christian Cabasele, 3 of which were picked up in the Norwich game. Now, not to put it down on the whole situation, Sam, but this is a big concern, right? This January coming up is so massive. I know we've mentioned this a lot of times on the channel when we've gone into January, that we have to get some players in, but it's a big problem. Don't get me wrong, unbelievable performance against Norwich, but we can't play that every week and churn out the results. It's going to be an unbelievable effort to do that every week, right? So how much of a concern is it for you at this moment in time?
Yeah, definitely. As good as Mario Gaspar and Bacuna were, I don't really want to see that midfield duo ever again, as I said on that video. Yeah. But listen, we've, as you just said, Jacob, we've said over the years since doing the channel how important the January transfer window is. But I can't think of a time where it's been as important as now, because the squad is really down to its bare bones, and we need to get reinforcements in there. And other than Courtney Hawes, I can't really think of anyone I'd let go of at the moment as well, because we need as many bodies in there as we can get. The reason I get rid of Courtney Hawes is to free up a loan space, hopefully, if we can terminate that loan. Because I'm not sure whether we'll see Courtney Hawes anytime soon, but it is absolutely massive. Probably every area of the pitch needs strengthening in. We probably need 4, 5, 6 players this window, to be honest with you, on top of what we've got already in Kone and Martins. And, Ben Manga, let's hope he works his magic, because it's an absolutely huge few weeks ahead for Watford, season defining even.
What can we expect, Charlie, in the sense that you going into the January transfer window, are you expecting big signings? Are you expecting a number of players to come in? Or are you very much expecting a couple here and there, maybe dipping into the free agent market? How are you feeling going into, we are in January. How are you feeling at the moment?
Yeah, January is always the worst window to do business in terms of player availability, people putting their prices up, uncertainty in terms of managers, who's in, who's out. There's so many managers now who, do you know what I mean, jobs available, so players don't know if they're going to be ready or not. So I think let's see what Ben Manga and Helena Costa can do. I think we've already reported to get the right back in from Benfica. That seems to be having some sort of link with Helena Costa, who used to be at Benfica, so should know the player. I've always kind of rated our scouting. Don't get me wrong, it's not 100%, but I think we've always been able to unearth some gems. So the people upstairs have got to be really, really shrewd now, because like Sam said, there's striker, centre midfield, right back, left back. Like, we are incredibly short, and we still don't know the extent of Keenan Davis's injury, but I think we're going to need to bring in 4 or 5 players who can come into the first team and make an impact and challenge for a starting 11. So you're going to have to find that quality, which is going to be difficult.
It's going to be tough. Sam, just on, as Charlie mentioned, the right back, João Ferreira, who's from Benfica. He's been on a couple of loans. He hasn't played a lot of football at the moment, but you look at the profile of what he's going to bring. I think Lou Orns described it as a more technically gifted Adam Messina, which, to be fair, I think we'd take every day of the week. But in terms of the profile of signing, you look at him in terms of the amount of games he's played. He's a young player. We're getting him on a cheap deal, around £2 million that Adam Leventhal's quoted. Is that the type of player we should be looking at? Do you feel like that kind of that's what Ben Manga's been brought in to do, right? Is to bring in players of that profile. But do you think that's the type of player we should be going for?
100%. It breaks the recent trend that we've seen in terms of the signings, the likes of Mario Gaspar, Dan Gosling. Obviously, there have been young players who we've signed in that time as well. But I think particularly in the fullback positions, it's exactly the sort of signing that we need. I mean, admittedly, I'd never heard of him until Watford had signed him. Has it actually been confirmed yet?
Not been confirmed, but I mean, he's followed the club on Instagram. It's a done deal. I saw there was reports in Portugal that have said he signed. I think it might be a 3-year deal. I might have misquoted that, but he signed a deal, and he's come over. Funnily enough, someone had said that on the Watford fan forums, and they were like, "We're getting a right back in. They're coming in 1st of January," and he was right, to be fair. Just a fun fact. He was right. I saw a couple of others, which we'll get into in a minute, Sam. But sorry, I interrupted you there. You were saying about the sort of signing that he's brought in.
Yeah, so I mean, admittedly, I didn't really know too much about Ferreira, but as long as he can come in, hit the ground running, I mean, he's got no other option but to come in at the moment, unless one of us, we sign a centre mid and Gaspar moves back over to right back. But yeah, I just hope not only will he be helpful for now, but also one for the future as well.
Yeah, for sure. So, Charlie, in terms of some of the other links that, just to transition over to the transfers, Ishmael Kone coming in, obviously after impressive performances at the World Cup. Mateus Martins, there's a few issues around his work permit at the moment, according to Adam Leventhal, so we'll have to keep an eye on that one and how that one progresses. João Ferreira coming in, so that's a central midfielder, an attacker who can play across the front line, and a right back in João Ferreira. Or is it left back? Have I got that? I think it's right back. Right. The other few names that I'm going to throw out there now, there's been a few links to players who have played for Watford before. And I know someone that you really liked, Emmanuel Dennis, is linked with a move back to Watford. Basically, with FA rules, if people have missed it, stipulates that you can't play for 3 clubs in the same country, I think it is. So he's obviously played for Watford at the start of the season under Rob Edwards. He played for Nottingham Forest under Steve Cooper. So he can only actually come back to Watford or move overseas. And there's been an offer from a US team and I think a team from Saudi Arabia. So they're the options for Emmanuel Dennis at the minute, because it really hasn't worked out for him at Nottingham Forest. Charlie, yes or no, would you take Emmanuel Dennis back to Watford? It's split Watford Twitter. Where are you on that debate?
No, I would not take him back. Big fan of him last season. I thought his box office so fun to watch. Got some really good goals. He's got quality. I just think we need to prioritise trying to build some sort of togetherness, really improve the culture under Bilic, make sure we get good eggs in the building who are all pulling in the right direction. I think Emmanuel Dennis was the one who was itching to leave the minute we got relegated. Good player, but I think for the bigger picture, I think we need to be a bit more creative and get someone who's a bit more hungry and someone who go, I'd love to be a Watford player for the next 5 years.
So Charlie's on that side of the fence. I'm going to throw it over to Sam and let us know in the comment section. Would you take Emmanuel Dennis back at Watford? Yes or no, whether you're watching live on Twitter or YouTube. Sam, yes or no, Emmanuel Dennis?
Yes, I'm on the other side of the fence to Charlie. I completely get the argument about changing the culture, particularly, the group of players that we had last season didn't really cement themselves into the hearts of Watford fans. There were also those rumours going around that the players were actively celebrating when Emmanuel Dennis left. But if we can get a player there who is happy to come, just get his head down, work his absolute hardest, and I think if one person can get the right attitude out of him and get the best out of him, it is Slaven Bilic. I'd try and get him on loan until the end of the season, and I probably wouldn't get him on a permanent after, to be honest with you. But at the moment, we need bodies in the door, regardless of who it is. We're quite a desperate stage at the moment. So if it's possible to get Dennis in on loan until the end of the season, I think it's very difficult to pass up on a player of that quality in the Championship.
I think, I'm kind of in the middle, not to not to play it that way, but I do feel like he'd be in favour of the move. I think he would drop down the division. I mean, the amount of times you see him watching Watford games on his Instagram story, I don't know how much you read into that, but the guy clearly loves the club. And even when we've won games, he's actually posted about it. So I see both sides of this argument, and there's part of me which is thinking purely football, which is on Sam's side of things. The output that he could give to us, he probably walks straight into the team. He scores maybe 10 goals for the end of the season, chips in with a few assists. But then there's also a part of me, which is you've read reports, Andrew French hinted at it the other day, suggesting he'd be surprised if Watford went back in there based on the fact of what the dressing room was like when he left. You then had reports when he left, as Charlie, you mentioned, that people were kind of happy to see the back of him. So I'm really split. I'd love to know what you think in the comment section. I'm kind of swaying towards yes, purely because I think Bilic could maybe appease him and get the best out of him. So I guess
let's not forget on that bear in mind the culture last season. Obviously, a lot of it was down to the players, but a lot of last season was down to Roy Hodgson, a manager who didn't really want to be there either. And I think that perhaps trickles down into the team itself. And I think regarding, and also Claudio Ranieri didn't seem particularly interested as well, according to reports. But Slaven Bilic will be on it. The club are desperate to get promoted. I think because of that, we could see a different side to Emmanuel Dennis.
I don't want to start like a whole new debate, but what are your guys' views in terms of like this season towards the end of the season and our goals? Like, would you be happy if like by hook or by crook, we kind of get up, Emmanuel Dennis comes in, but we're in a position where we're not going to be able to build a good squad and maybe the Premier League will never be a disaster? What do you think if we slowly brought in people who could be a bit more long-term and we just miss out and we can go again maybe and maybe Bilic can stay? That's the kind of energy and angle I'd rather see us, because we can't have another season like we did last season. It was awful. We need some sort of, maybe this is unrealistic to think we're getting this under the Pozzos, but we need some sort of longevity. And if we miss out on going up this season, but next season we have a really good team who are all together under Bilic, God, this sounds unrealistic, but that would be an idea. I wouldn't mind that.
I think I prefer the second option. I guess, Sam, what I throw over to you is in sort of the counter argument. We have moaned about the culture at Watford and we have moaned about potentially the signings we're making. So would this actually be a step backwards to what? And don't get me wrong, we don't know what's happened. We're only kind of second guessing. But from what we've read and through the most reliable journalists that cover the football club, there was issues around kind of the atmosphere in the dressing room, etc., with Dennis. So are we taking then a step backwards by going, look, by hook or by crook, as Charlie mentioned, that we go up? But actually, for me, I'd be more on the second option, which is, make the right signings. Let's go in the right direction. If we go up, it's a bonus. But actually, at least we all know we're on the same page. Whereas, do you think we're then kind of going against that with a sign like that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's a difficult one because obviously I'm desperate to get promoted and watch Watford play at the highest level. Albeit next season, there's a good chance that it will be, incredibly depressing again and difficult to watch us. And of course, in an ideal world, I would want to build a Watford team over a period of time and, eventually reap the rewards of that. I just think at the moment it's a very unique situation. It's desperate times for us in terms of that injury list, and we desperate without João Pedro for the next couple of months. We desperately need that bit of star quality in the squad. I don't think we've seen it enough from Sarr this season, albeit we saw it in the Norwich game. And I just think Emmanuel Dennis is able to offer us that, even if it's on loan until the end of the season.
So one comment from Robbie. Thanks so much for watching, Robbie. If we can't find any other forwards, then Dennis would be a decent signing on the basis that he knows where the net is. Marvin Barreto, love to see you, Marvin. I loved Dennis so much last season, despite everything. Not sure that option is really viable anymore. How motivated will he be? And let us know what you think on the whole Emmanuel Dennis thing. And one thing, I'm going to throw this over to you, Charlie. Neil's put in the comment section, what do you think of the rumours linking us with a loan for Will Hughes? So I've seen nothing concrete on this in the sort of main media outlets. But again, going on to the forums, someone had mentioned that we were, and to be fair, this was the same person who mentioned about João Ferreira coming in. That was going to be, so it's clearly quite reliable. Neil says, what do you think of rumours linking us with a loan for Will Hughes, Charlie?
Oh, Hughesy.
Mr. Hair.
Do you know one thing that ever since Quique Sanchez Flores, I've always thought never go back. I mean, you can't have that rule for everything because Graham Taylor did bits, but I just can't see it. Like, it ended in such bad terms. I love the player. I think he's exactly what we need. And I'm gutted that the club got in a situation where we let him go, where he couldn't reach his contract, because he said after promotion he wanted to stay. So I think the club could have done better to keep him. I just really can't see this in any way how it's going to happen. I think I saw him playing for Palace the other day, so he's not like he's part of a squad. I love Will Hughes, a player. I just can't see this happening.
I'd be surprised, Sam.
Yeah, completely agree. And no, we've been linked with a few ex-players this window, players who are on the fringes of their clubs, and I'd say probably Will Hughes he's knocking on the door for Palace. I mean, a lot of Palace fans, if you look through the replies of their lineups, they're saying start Hughes, where's Hughes, that sort of thing. So, you know, they're not in the best of form at the moment, I don't think either. So I think it's very unlikely that he'll return to Watford.
One question I wanted to throw to both of you guys, and I'm asking you tricky questions today. If you could take one back in Emmanuel Dennis or Will Hughes, who would it be?
Hughes.
Yeah, I agree.
I've got a similar question in that vein as well. Another player that we've been linked with, obviously, is Abdoulaye Doucouré, and another debate that people have been talking about as whether they bring Nathaniel Chalobah back, who hasn't been playing too much for Fulham. So, if you could pick one between Hughesy, Chalobah, or Doucouré to bring back, who would it be?
Hughes. Hughes is he's the player who
he's the linchpin, isn't he?
Yeah, I think that holding midfielder. He's late developed into that role, but so comfortable on the ball. He's a battler. He's a bit of a leader. He's what we need. But then again, saying that, like, they got rid of Hughes to bring in Imran Louza, who I don't know who's better. Obviously, more of Hughes, so might see as that. But we all love Louza, so. Yeah, I think Hughes is a better player than definitely Chalobah. I'm not sure about a peak Doucouré, but I really like Hughes.
Did you see the video of Doucouré the other day just sitting on the ball in the Everton warm-up? I don't know if anyone's seen that. It's bizarre. Really weird.
That club is a whole mess. I mean, and that, you know, Doucouré moving from a club at Watford after getting relegated to Everton, which just seems to be even more of a shambles at the moment than us, which is incredibly difficult. You do have to feel for him.
How much money did they pay for him?
I'm trying to think now. Yeah, something like that. Yeah, but I mean, I think Doucouré will leave Everton this window. I just don't think he'll be to Watford. I think he'd probably go back to France, to be honest.
Do you know what? It's got Fulham written all over it, I think, with Marco. Yeah, I think
journalists just use Watford's name because we know we're a bit of a mad club and anything's possible. So and like agents would probably just say, yeah, Watford are interested, just to drive up the interest. So
100%. Just a couple of comments before we get on some more rumours that have been mentioned. Rio says, Rio Wolf could see Rio. Dennis could be that backup to Davis if he gets injured again. Adam says, I think Dennis would be a great signing to play alongside Davis and Sarr. And Rio says they paid 22 million for him. I don't know. I think it might be 15 with add-ons, but yeah, it was good. I mean, good deal for Watford, to be fair. Look, moving on to the next transfer rumour, and we'll try and keep these coming throughout the January window. The next one that's been linked, and he's been linked with both Watford and Udinese, obviously with the Pozzo ownership, is Ryan Porteous from Hibernian. Now, his contract's running out in the summer, so Hibernian are keen to get an agreement in place that they can benefit from this deal. I mean, the fact that they're letting go probably one of their best centre-backs is kind of a sign of the decisions made by the club in the past. But he's someone who's been there's a lot of interest from Championship clubs, and Watford / Udinese are kind of keen to pick him up. I'm going to throw this one over to you. I don't know who knows more about Ryan and what he's brought to the table. I'll throw
Give it to Charlie. Give it to Charlie.
Charlie. What do you know about him? And could you see this one happening? I mean, I'm liking it. Sorry, Charlie, before I throw it over. I like it. Do you remember when we were linked with Matty Longstaff? And there was that whole thing about when Udinese were going to sign him and then he was going to come over to Watford. I don't know if that would be the same again, but would it be a good signing in your eyes?
Yeah, I think it would be a good signing in terms of the profile of the player. I think 23 centre-back, got good experience at his age. I think he's got leadership qualities. I don't think he's the finished product. I've seen he can be quite rash sometimes, but I think if you look on his Twitter, they always rate him. Lee Johnson, their manager, is kind of furious that the club didn't tie him down long time ago. So I think for his age, he's one of their main defenders. And we've said on the last channel, we think that we might need quality in that area, and we think we might need leadership. So for me, he's a really decent profile. If his deal's running out and we can get him for a good price, I think that'd be a good signing.
Yeah, for sure. And the other one that's mentioned is George Bello, who's a left back. Now, this is one that people have said is a typical Ben Manga signing, but actually people have done a bit of digging, and we have been linked with him before, and he's apparently a suggestion from Gioretta. So George Bello, he's a USA left back. He's featured, I think, 8 times for the USA. He's playing for Arminia Bielefeld in the Bundesliga 2 after their relegation last season. He's understood to be available for 1.5 million. Football Insider, who are relatively reliable and actually pretty reliable with Watford news. So that's one to keep an eye on. And a left back is another link. So with João Ferreira coming in at right back, potentially George Bello coming in at left back, that could be the full backs and wing backs sorted. Look, we're going to move on to the final part of today's show, which is Agree to Disagree, which we're going to look to bring it in for most shows. And we'd love to get your thoughts. This is the way we can interact with you guys. So if you let us know in the live chat whether you agree or disagree with the following statements. I'm going to throw it over to Charlie because it's his idea. And Charlie does these sort of things on the Watford FC Twitter spaces as well, which are really, really good fun. So make sure you go and give them a listen. Charlie, it's over to you, mate. Looking forward to this one.
So do you want me to get up the list of? I'll get up the list of statements and we'll go through there. So
we'll go through.
First statement we shall do, and I'll pass it over to Sam first and then Jacob. But the first statement is Watford will sign 4+ players in January. Sam, agree or disagree, and why?
Are we including Martins and Kone in that?
No.
I'll say no then. And I don't think we will because I just couldn't really see it. I just think it's a bit unheard of for Watford. Not unheard of, but I think it's unlikely with the club's financial situation. And in terms of, I know that a lot of players are injured at the moment, but we still do have quite a few players, and we'd have to shift a few before we bring in. And as I say, I think the only one I could realistically see leaving is Courtney Halls.
Jacob, do you reckon 4+ players or more?
I'm going to go yes, because I feel like we'll dip into the free agent market. We've done that before in the midway through the championship season. We're including free agents, right, on signings? Yeah, okay, I could see it. I mean, one player that I mentioned on the group chat earlier, and I know we're going to get a few eyebrows raised at this one, I could see us signing Andy Carroll. I just feel like that could be a really Watford signing. I could see it. I mean, the fact that his contract at Reading expires on the 15th of Jan, he's worked with Bilic before. I could see Bilic wanting him after Raymond I got injured, someone who could come off the bench and rough up a few defenders. Look, I'm just going to put it out there. I would not be surprised if that comes to fruition. But Charlie, in answer to your question, I'm going to go with you agreeing with the statement.
I like it. Well done. Yeah, if Andy Carroll comes in, Jacob can announce him. Yeah, 4 signings. Okay, next one. Sam, over to you. Is Myla's Star will leave Watford this January?
Disagree, because I think there will be offers there, but none of them will be to Watford's liking. They're going to want to get some fee close to probably 25 million, and I don't think we'll get anywhere near that, to be honest with you.
Oh, this is really tough. I think if the right offer comes in, they will sell, and I wouldn't be surprised if someone like Everton did pay over the odds. And did you go disagree, Sam?
Yeah, I disagreed with it.
I'm going to go disagree. Oh, actually, having said, to be fair, I don't think we'll get a better time to sell him, so I'll go agree.
Like it. We've got some conflicting ideas.
I'm not disagree with Sam.
Watford's best ever January signing was Gerard Deulofeu.
Oh, that's easy. That one, I agree. I can't think of I can't really think of a better one, to be honest with you. I'd say probably we've seen some really sort of shrewd signings in the last few years. Notably, I mean, not at the time, but in hindsight, I was a big fan of that Dan Gosling signing in the promotion season. I think he's been a good servant to us over the last couple of years. But in terms of quality of player, Deulofeu is right up there with the best I've seen at Watford. So definitely, I'd go agree with that.
I like the way you put Dan Gosling and Gerard Deulofeu in the same sentence.
I'm just thinking of January signings.
Al Pedro, 23 years ago. But Jacob, agree or disagree?
I agree. I think I'd have to go agree best ever January signing purely based on the quality and the caliber of player. But I was just thinking if there's any other players in that season, like in a season who had a bigger impact. I don't know, like I'm trying to think 2014-15 maybe is a good example where someone's come in, and I think Ben Watson actually.
Yeah.
Maybe not in terms of ability, but in terms of the impact, I think Ben Watson really changed our season.
Yeah.
So, do you know what? I'm just going to disagree with Sam again. I'm going to disagree. Ben Watson was the January, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
I'm going to go Ben Watson. Look, why not?
So Jacob's saying that Ben Watson is Watford's greatest ever January signing. Let's get that clipped up. Okay. Next one. Slavan Bilic will be the Watford manager at the start of next season.
Oh, that's a tough one. Based on trends, I would like to say disagree. Not like to say, I'd love Slavan Bilic. I think he's one who will. I'm going to agree with that. I think he will be a starter next season.
I agree because I think the Potsos wanted him for so long that they're not going to sack him unless it gets really, really bad. And it's got really bad this season. And as you said, Sam, in proven record that they probably would have sacked the manager after the Swansea game.
If he was going to walk, he probably would have walked already, to be honest.
Do you know what? I don't think would sack him. I think it's only if he gets a better offer. I could see him. I mean, the caliber of manager, he could.
You know what football club we're talking about?
I know. But just whether there was a bit, let's just say a Premier team or, I mean, I don't know, whether a Premier League team would come in for him. Look, I'm going to be positive. I think he will be here next season.
Good stuff. I've just seen a comment for the last question about January transfers. Heider Helgeson.
Oh, that's a great shout. That is a great shout.
Okay, last one for this, unless anyone wants to send in their statements to see if we agree or disagree. But last one is, Watford will get promoted this season back to the Premier League?
I want to be optimistic, but being realistic, I disagree. I think it's playoff semi-final loss.
To who?
Don't say it.
I'm not.
Edwards is watching.
I'll say Middlesbrough.
Oh God, it has just. Oh God, I hate being like negative like that, but it has got a Luton playoff final written over it. A playoff semi-final. I think we'll get playoffs, but I don't think we'll go up. I think it's just a bit too much this season. I mean, we are getting pretty unlucky as well with injuries, but I just think squad depth could be better. Needs to be better to get promoted. I actually think, to be fair, when you look at the teams of this season, it was I'm saying like it's over, but I think it is a really good opportunity to go up because realistically, Burnley have walked away with it, but that second place is up for grabs for so many teams. And it might be
Sheffield United pretty strong.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I mean, in terms of like the play, yeah, maybe not second with Sheffield United. I'm getting mixed up with the play. The playoffs is so open this year. I mean, Millwall, like, who would have expected Millwall to be in the position they are now? No disrespect, but
I mean, 3 to 5 games ago, West Brom and Middlesbrough were in a relegation scrap. They changed their managers and now they're in the playoff places.
in the playoffs. I mean, I was having a look at the table and we're like, there's not a much bigger gap between us and like 16th.
No, nothing there.
I mean, yeah, as you say, Charlie, like Burnley, Sheffield United will go up through the autos, I'd imagine. I mean, it would have to take a real like fall off. But the playoffs is so open this year. It could be one of those seasons. You remember when Blackpool got promoted? Where it was like the 2 teams run away with it, and there was like a team from 6th who just like got in on the last day or whatever. So
if you had to call it now, who is going up through the playoffs then?
Jesus Christ, Sam.
Middlesbrough are going to announce the signing of Cameron Archer, who I really wanted us to sign in the summer. Scored bags of goals for Preston. I think that's going to be a good signing. They're in a good moment. They're flying, so I think Middlesbrough could be a good shout.
I think Norwich with David Wagner as well now. I think could be a threat again. To be honest with you, I'd say I would have said Sunderland if you asked me last week. I just think that genuinely, I just think the whole energy around the club, I think would get them up. But now they've lost Ellis Sims back to Everton. I think that could ultimately cost them. I just think Middlesbrough under Michael Carrick looks so good. As you say, they got Cameron Archer coming in, and the whole mood there is so positive. I think it will probably be them.
Oh, I'm just having a look at the table again. It's actually a joke. The one team that I would say don't write off is West Brom. Just with Carlos Carvajal, I think they've got a really good team. He's a great manager as well for the level, particularly, and he gets a lot from his players. I'm going to go. I'll go with West Brom through the playoffs. But Middlesbrough are the one team. Middlesbrough, and I have to say Luton as well. Just with Rob going in there and stuff, it looks a little bit of a problemo. Who do you reckon, Charlie?
Well, I think we're going to win our remaining games, so we'll finish second. Yeah, I think Middlesbrough, their fullbacks are unbelievable in Isaiah Jones and Ryan. Ryan, what's his name? My head's gone.
Yeah,
begins with G. Giles, and yeah, I think Middlesbrough, Michael Carrick, they've got a good vibe. So yeah, Burnley, Watford, and Middlesbrough, obviously.
That was a great game, though, Charlie. I'm actually lost for words for some of those. And I'm still backing, and you can clip this up, Ben Watson is our best ever January signing. Someone could clip that and put it all everywhere. Over Delafeu.
Let's go straight on Twitter.
Let's go straight on Twitter. I love to be fair, I'm really interested in what people say. Who's the best ever January signing by Watford? Heider Helgeson is a fantastic shout. Look, that's where we're going to wrap it up. Thanks so much to Sam and Charlie for today. Thanks to everyone who got involved. So many of you got involved and watched live, which is fantastic. And if you're watching this back, let us know in the comment section what you think. Leave a like on the video. Subscribe to WD18. Follow the guys on socials. Our ats are just underneath us. And we'll see you next time. Nice one. Take care. Up the Hornets.